They laughed first because laughter was easier than admitting confusion. On Station K317, nicknamed Wayward Harbour by the transient crews who passed through its rusted spokes, every species had learned the same hard lesson. Heat was expensive, unreliable, and rationed with bureaucratic cruelty. The station orbited a dim red dwarf, too weak to warm the hulls properly and too temperamental for consistent solar harvest. Nights on K317 were long, cold, and punishing. The aliens laughed at the human because he built a bed out of clay, not advanced polymer, not adaptive biofoam, not thermal gel infused with phase change crystals, clay, mud, earth. They watched him. Whole buckets of reddish-brown soil scavenged from the hydroponics overflow, mix it with shredded station insulation and water, and pack it into a low, coffin-shaped structure in the corner of his rented compartment. He molded vents with his bare hands. He lined the interior with smooth stones scavenged from ballast storage. Then, most ridiculous of all, he installed a small combustion chamber at the foot of it. A firebox, primitive, chittered Vector, the insectoid quartermaster, his antennae curling with amusement. Station regulations prohibit open flame devices. It's not open, the human replied mildly. It's enclosed. Still combustion. Still legal, the human said, tapping the regulation slate. Under subsection 12, cultural heating practices. The slate was real. Vector checked twice. The laughter resumed, louder this time, echoing down the corridor. The human's name was Elias Mercer, former Earthside infrastructure engineer, civilian now, station drifter by necessity, not choice. He had arrived on K317 with 2 bags, a tool roll, and the kind of tired eyes common among humans who had lived through planetary climate collapse and reconstruction. He had also arrived with a problem. Humans, compared to most galactic species, were absurdly heat adaptive, but only within reason. Station K317 maintained an ambient temperature, optimized for a multi-species average, about 6 degrees Celsius, survivable for most, miserable for humans. Heating credits were limited, expensive, and strictly monitored. Elias had burned through his allocation in the first week, so he improvised. The aliens laughed when he slept inside the clay structure, curled like a corpse in a tomb. They laughed when faint wisps of warm air vented from the side. They laughed when he fed it scraps of biomass pellets and dried algae. They stopped laughing. The first night the station's thermal grid failed. The failure came without warning. A micrometeorite storm rare, badly time-shredded 3 external radiators. The station shuddered. Emergency bulkheads sealed. Power rerouted. Heat dropped. For most species, it was uncomfortable. For some, it was deadly. The Trilaxia amphibious, soft-skinned, and native to warm swamps, began suffering hypothermic shock within minutes. Their quarters went dark and cold. The station's emergency heaters couldn't compensate fast enough. Panic spread. Elias felt it too. The sudden bite of cold that crept through metal walls and into bone. He swore, grabbed his jacket, and crawled into his clay oven bed. He lit the firebox with practiced efficiency, sealed the vent, and waited. Within minutes, warmth enveloped him. Not just warmth deep, warmth. Radiant heat stored in the clay walls, released slowly and evenly. The temperature inside rose steadily, stabilizing far above ambient. 50 degrees warmer. Later measurements would show Elias slept. He slept while alarms blared across the station. He slept while medics scrambled. He slept while the Tralaxi began dying, until someone started pounding on his door. Human. Elias, came the frantic buzz-click of Vectel's voice. Open, emergency. Elias groaned, crawled out, and opened the hatch. Vek Tal staggered in, mandibles clacking in distress. Behind him hovered the station medics, dragging a Tralaxi child wrapped in emergency foil. The child's skin was pale blue to pale. He is freezing, one medic hissed. We have no heat. Elias looked at the child, then at his clay oven bed. How many? He asked. How many what? How many need heat? Vectel hesitated. Dozens. Maybe more. Elias nodded once. Bring them. They stared at him. Bring them here, he repeated. Carefully, slowly. We'll start with the worst. They didn't argue. They filled his compartment with bodies. The clay oven bed was designed for one. Human, but Elias adapted it on the fly. He removed the top panel, widened the opening, adjusted airflow. He taught the medics how to rotate patients in and out, how to monitor skin temperature, how to prevent thermal shock. The clay absorbed heat, stored it, released it gently. The Tralaxi survived. Word spread fast by morning. The laughter was gone. Instead, there were questions. What is this structure called? Asked a Kalari engineer, their crystalline eyes reflecting the warm glow of embers. A hypercost variant, Elias replied. Earth design, ancient, Roman, Turkish, Korean, lots of cultures figured it out independently. Why clay? Asked Vectel. Because it's cheap. Because it works. Because it doesn't care if the power grid fails. The station administration arrived by midday, accompanied by legal advisors and thermal specialists. They scanned the oven, measured heat output, efficiency curves, fuel consumption. Their expressions shifted from skepticism to astonishment. This violates none of our safety thresholds. One specialist admitted, and the efficiency is remarkable. Elias shrugged. Humans learned early that surviving winter wasn't about burning hotter. It was about holding heat. Within a week, Elias was no longer a laughingstock. He was a consultant. They converted unused cargo bays into communal clay thermal shelters. Humans helped mold. Tralaxi supervised humidity control. Even species that didn't need the heat began using the spaces for comfort, for sleep, for quiet. The station's energy consumption dropped by 14%. The laughter turned into something else. Respect, but the story didn't end there. Months later, when a corporate envoy arrived from the core worlds, they came with sleek uniforms and colder intentions. They saw K317 not as a community, but as a liability. Your station is inefficient, the envoy declared. Non-standard infrastructure. Unauthorized modifications. The modifications saved lives. Vectel snapped. They are unsanctioned. They are human, Elias said quietly. The envoy turned to him. Your species is known for emotional attachment to obsolete practices. Elias smiled, slow and thin. Funny thing about obsolete, he said. It only means forgotten, not useless. The envoy ordered a full thermal shutdown and audit, they claimed. One night. No exceptions. The station protested. The order stood. When the grid went dark again, the clay ovens remained warm. The envoy's own species, fragile, adapted to perfect artificial climates, had no such backup. They came, reluctantly, to the clay shelters. They slept on Earth. They woke warm by morning. The audit was quietly rescinded. The envoy left without ceremony after that. Clay ovens spread not just on K317, on fringe stations, on refugee habitats, on deep space mining platforms where energy was scarce and nights were long. They called them Mercer beds. Elias never patented the design. Knowledge like this, he said, doesn't belong to one person. Years later, a galactic symposium on sustainable habitation invited him to speak. Representatives from 100 species gathered, expecting advanced schematics and complex equations. Elias brought a block of clay. He set it on the table. This, he said, is what kept my ancestors alive when the sun was weak and the night was cold. This is what you laughed at. No one laughed because now they understood. Humans didn't conquer the stars with superior weapons or faster ships. They did it with memory, with the stubborn refusal to forget what worked, with clay and fire, and the quiet genius of sleeping 50 degrees warmer when the universe tried to freeze you to death. And in the long, cold dark between stars, that was enough. Asterisk.